Hey guys, it's Juck. Just want to let you know before the video starts, thank you to someone in the comments who pointed out to me, I'm re-releasing this video. I omitted Lathan Ransom as I went through this. He was in my notes. He's in the count, but I rambled on about Donovan Jackson and missed it. Lost my place. It happens. So I'm re-releasing this. Just keep in mind, Lathan Ransom, we love him too. And obviously he's going to get drafted. I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship, the season of dreams.
So Juck over with Menace to Sports.
And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the 2024 national champs, will be remembered for how they came out of that. And welcome to Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me. Last season, we heard all year that Michigan was going to break the record of most guys drafted from one school in a single draft. They bragged about it all year. They even bragged about how many guys they sent to the combine, which I didn't even know was something we kept statistics of. And I certainly had never heard anyone brag about it, but we know that they'll find a way to brag about anything. And they did. And they made fun of Ohio State for having so few guys sent to the combine last year. And that was because we all knew that this year was the year Ohio State was going to have their crack at that record. So we're going to go over this Ohio State draft eligible class and see if we think the Buckeyes got a shot at that record. But before we do, due to the fact that our Buckeyes won the national championship less than a week ago, there is a lot of pumped up Ohio State fans, college football fans in general, who are checking out Ohio State stuff. We've seen a tremendous uptick in traffic here at Juck on Bucks. If you're someone who's new, I appreciate you stopping in. I'm Juck. We talk about the Buckeyes every day here at Juck on Bucks, just about, and all college football in general. So if you are new, please subscribe. If you like the show, hit the notification button so you know when new videos come out, and like the video. That goes for everyone. Also available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Appreciate you guys for stopping in. But when we talk about this Buckeye class, let's talk first about the greatest classes, the ones that are on the top of this list. And we're going to look at the top 6. Reason we're going to look at the top 6 is because 7th place is 11 players, and there's like 10 deep with that number. So let's pull that puppy up and take a look, number 1, at the gold standard, 15 players off of Georgia's roster, 5 first-round draft picks, the number 1 overall pick. But before that was the gold standard. The gold standard was the 2004 Buckeyes, 14 players drafted. That, of course, the team that went in as a huge underdog and beat the Miami Hurricanes, who were thought at the time to be the most talented roster in the history of college football. Little did we know going into that game that we were going to watch a national championship game that featured more NFL players than any other game ever played. It was thought that Ohio State had much less talent than that Miami team, was really punching above their weight. And certainly this record that they set in 2004, that, as you can see, stood 18 years before it was broken. It wasn't even tied for 16 years when the Joe Burrow Tigers of 2019 won the national championship, and then the following draft that year, also 5 first-round picks like LSU. So that Buckeye record stood forever. Michigan last year, they fell short. They fell short not only of Georgia's record, but of the former gold standard, the Ohio State class of 2004. So that's a shame. Other notable classes on this list, obviously, the Alabama 2018 class and that Ohio State class in 2016, which when we talk about top-end talent, that's another one of those 5 first-round classes. Joey Bosa, the number 3 draft pick in that class. So that is what we're looking to beat. Where are these Buckeyes going to find themselves on this list? So we've just heard that Sonny Styles and Davison Igbinosun will be coming back to Ohio State next year. And those 2 guys obviously would have been drafted, which really would have helped this record being set. But we'd much rather have them back at Ohio State for our defense next year than break some silly records. So that's good news. Now, let's start off with the guys here. We'll go with our, I think, who everybody agrees is going to be the unanimous first pick from this group of Buckeyes here. And that's going to be Josh Simmons, despite his injury. Left tackle Josh Simmons, who came to Ohio State via the transfer portal 2 seasons ago, played 2 years with the Buckeyes, came from Fresno State, or San Diego State. He was rated as a top 10 interior offensive lineman out of the portal, so not thought to be this caliber of dude. And he comes in And props to Justin Fry and the offensive line crew who teach him how to play tackle, clean up his penalty issue that he came up with, and Mick and the strength and conditioning guys change his body. He was kind of a sloppy body. This guy is one svelte looking tackle, and at 6'5", 310, moves like a defensive tackle and has long arms. He's aggressive. He's smart. He's everything you want. He's going to play in the NFL a very long time. And that's a great story, really, right there. So he'll be the number one guy drafted, I think, from this Buckeye roster. Now let's go to dudes from the vaunted class of 2021, the best class in Ohio State history that included 7 5-stars. And if you're not familiar with recruiting rankings, there are 32 5-stars in a class. Now, there are 32 because there are 32 first-round draft picks, and essentially they're saying, we're projecting these guys to be the first-round draft picks, one of which, Emeka Egbuka. At 6'1", 190, the wide receiver out of the state of Washington, came in and set the all-time Ohio State receptions record, almost got the yards record. An awesome Buckeye, a captain, and going to be one of the next. I think this group of guys right here is all kind of interchangeable from Emeka to the two ends. Obviously, we talk about Jack and JT, two guys who towards the end of this year really improved things for themselves. Guys who were thought to be, I saw some stuff early in the season. JT projected as a late first rounder, Jack an early second. We'll see. It all depends on team needs and whatnot, but they're somewhere in that area, as is Tyleik Williams. Tyleik Williams came into this class as a highly rated 4-star, 166 in the country at 6'3", 330. You cannot move him off his spot. He's incredibly athletic, particularly for a guy who doesn't look like he'd be a great athlete. And he's just a total stud. Dane Bugler predicted he would be the second guy off the Buckeyes board before the season started. And I'm not so sure if that's still going to be the case, but he's going to be up there in the mix with Jack and JT, late first round, second round, up to the middle of the second round for the three of those guys, which is fantastic. Donovan Jackson, 5-star offensive lineman out of Texas, 6'4.5", 324 pounds. He was considered a bit of a disappointment for a lot of his career. A guy who comes in, so highly rated, you might expect to be a little bit better, a little sooner. He certainly proved every bit of his worth this year, as I think that he is the one single guy on this team outside a quarterback that was indispensable. I think if you don't have Donovan Jackson this year, you don't accomplish your goal of a national championship. I think he was that important. And I think what he had behind him after he moved from guard out to left tackle in a move that he wasn't thrilled about, but he did it for the team. He did it so good. And who you had backing him up behind that, if you had to turn to that player, I think that the difference between what he was able to do and what was behind him might have been the difference between Ohio State getting over the hump and winning this national championship more than anybody else on the roster compared to what's behind them. So much props to him. You couldn't have done it without this guy. He's excellent, and he's going to be rewarded as he has really improved his draft stock throughout this season, and I couldn't feel better for the guy. We found out since the season ended from Ryan Day that he was gone. He was going to the draft last year, so he chose not to, comes back and really improved things for himself and won a national championship, made a memory for the rest of his life. I think that's a great story. So big props to him. Another 5-star out of that class of 2021, Travion Henderson. And boy, was I an idiot. Last year, my thought was Travion Henderson going to go to the NFL draft because he's got no way to really improve his draft stock. We've seen everything he can do. We know he's elite quick. He's a really good running back. We know he could potentially get injured. And if he gets injured again, now he's going to get labeled as this guy's just injury prone. And that's going to hurt him. So I didn't think he'd come back. And he did. And not only did he, but he improved things for himself quite a bit. This season was fantastic for Travion Henderson. 7.1 yards per carry, I think, was his total on the year as an average. And that's just ridiculous. Also, obviously led the country. Surely helped himself. And I cannot wait to see him in the NFL, along with his running mate, Quinshon Judkins, who came out of high school as a 3-star, but he was the player of the year in the state of Alabama. Alabama didn't want him. He ends up going to Ole Miss and coming to Ohio State. His choice. He wanted to come up to Ohio State. He comes, excellent season, 1,000 yards for the Buckeyes. He'll be drafted relatively, top 5-ish backs drafted. Then we got Denzel Burke, 4-star, top 200 player in the country, top 10 cornerback in the country, coming out of Arizona. Comes in with that class of 2021, starts and sets the record from a freshman to a senior with 51 total starts. That is the all-time record for number of starts for a defensive player. Broke Luke Fickell's record, and that's just amazing. So his decision last year, he wanted to come back in and be a surefire first-rounder. Don't think that's going to happen for him, but regardless, I mean, the guy's a great Buckeye, great story. I sure hope that he didn't hurt himself by coming back. Some will argue that maybe he did, but who knows? I don't know what you trade that for. I don't know what the trade-off is. You won a national championship. He's going to have a very successful NFL career, I think, and make a lot of money. So who's to say? Jordan Hancock also in the class of 2021 from the state of Georgia. Ohio State was able to flip him from Clemson into the class. He was a 4-star, very highly rated, 73rd player in the country, 6'1", 170. He's got a whole lot of fans, despite not being talked about. Folks who really break down film and crunch stuff like that rave about Jordan Hancock. And he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. Now, his position, obviously, what's he going to do? It's not a highly valued position in terms of what the NFL values, but he's definitely a draft pick for sure. Will Howard, quarterback from Kansas State, comes into Ohio State after getting a fifth round draft grade last year in the process. So he went from 5th rounder to whatever the heck he did this year. So much improvement from start to finish from Will Howard that he's getting talked about by a lot of people as a potential 2nd rounder now, which would be huge for Will. Couldn't feel better for the guy. Great leader. And we came into the season thinking all this guy needs to do is facilitate the offense. And instead, he becomes a dude. By the end of the season, Will was a dude. So awesome story, but maybe not as good as Seth McLaughlin. Seth McLaughlin, I don't want to say ran out of Alabama, but he knew his time there had to be done. The fans obviously very angry with him. The game in the Rose Bowl last year against Michigan with the snaps, and that wasn't the first issue that he and Milroe had with snaps, which I don't think was his fault. At any rate, Seth comes into Ohio State, and even Ohio State fans were saying, look, he's a quality lineman, but we're not going to put him at center. Let's just throw him at guard. Well, Seth was going to be a center all along. Seth not only was an excellent center, he was the best center in the country, even though he was injured and couldn't finish off the season, wins the Remington Award, All-American. He's going to get a tree in the Buckeye Grove, and he went from being a projected undrafted free agent to a clear-cut draft pick 100%, as did Cody Simon. Cody Simon thought to be a fringe, maybe 7th-round draft pick or an undrafted free agent coming into this year, a guy who played 370 snaps last year, sharing the reps as the 3rd guy with Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg. They had about 650 snaps apiece. He had 370. And he came into this year, and a lot of people were mad. They did not want him to be the starter. They wanted to see C.J. Hicks and Sonny Styles together. And Cody was pretty much locked into that spot from day one. We had a lot of talks about that on the show when I first started, and many people were pissed. And all Cody Simon did was go out and win himself the Bill Willis Blocko, become a captain, and one of the best linebackers in the country. A tremendous season from Cody, who, little known at the time, has all the measurables. When I went to the Woody over the summer, there are some boards, and they're all the athletic numbers, the top 10 for each of the individual tests that they do. Cody Simon was the only linebacker that was on 3 of those different boards. One of them was a 10-yard sprint, and he was faster than Jaden Ballard in the 10-yard sprint. Jaden Ballard, the fastest guy on that roster. So a linebacker running 10 yards, that's pretty important. He was also top 3 in a change of direction test. So change of direction, 10 yards, that's your dude. And we know how good he is instinctually. So Cody Simon is going to be a real gem for somebody. I can't wait. Those guys I just listed, that puts us at 14 guys, which ties the 2004 Buckeyes record. And 15, Ty Hamilton ties Georgia's record. Ty Hamilton, the bobblehead, just like his brother before him, a local Ohio kid, unheralded, comes in as a 3-star, works his way into becoming the core, one of the leaders of a national championship team. He was definitely not considered a draft pick before the season. He's put so much good tape against good competition, which is another thing we've not really talked about. What these guys were able to get themselves done here with this run was put themselves consistently in front of better and better and just excellent competition so many times this year that when they go review the film on these guys, they get to look at them against other NFL dudes week after week after week, which has helped them all tremendously. So twofold, they helped themselves here in this process by putting so much more film on tape against other high-level guys. And Ty Hamilton, I believe, gets drafted to tie the record at 15 with Georgia. Now, there are two other guys who I think are going to be undrafted free agents, but we could get lucky and one of them gets drafted. If one of them does, the Buckeyes break the record. And those guys are Josh Fryer. Josh Fryer, who started for 2 years at right tackle for Ohio State. And his second year, this year, he did pretty doggone good. So there's a chance there for Fryer. Also, G. Scott, who comes in as a 5-star wide receiver from the state of Washington and turns himself into a tight end. And it took him a while to do the body transformation, and he did it. And coming into this year, I would have never thought I'd consider him even be a fringe draftable guy, but he just got better and better, worked harder and harder. He's nails. He's a great young man, and anybody would love to have him on their team. So we'll see. That's our hope there, that G. Scott or Josh Fryer can get drafted. I think if either of them do, Ohio State breaks this record. But regardless, I think they tie that Georgia record, which would be so great, especially after all the crap the rival was talking last year. And I would absolutely love it. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Please like and subscribe on your way out, and I'll talk to you soon. Juck on Bucks out. I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship. Something stupid is coming out of his mouth. I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name. Let's talk about something good about